I never thought I'd see my own face twisted into a sneer while it spat lies about me from the stand. "Taylor's always been unstable," it said. My voice smooth, Ivy League polished, dripping with pity that didn't reach those stolen eyes. And as my mother dabbed at crocodile tears with a silk handkerchief, I gripped the back row bench until my knuckles cracked, knowing they'd buried the body that once held my soul just to claim the empire I'd built from their shadows. It started with a whisper in a boardroom, the kind of deal that greases palms in Silicon Valley backrooms, swap out the air for a puppet, and watch the stock prices soar. But they didn't count on me clawing back from the gutter, piece by ragged piece, to drag their perfect fraud into the light where even God couldn't look away. The rain hammered the windshield like it had a personal grudge, turning the Golden Gate Bridge into a blurred red smear ahead. I'd hitched from Sacramento that morning, thumb out like some ghost from a Steinbeck novel. My boots, secondhand docks that pinched like hell, squishing with every step on the fog-slick deck. San Francisco, city of dreams and broken tech bros. But for me, it was ground zero. The place where they'd ripped me out of my skin and shoved me into this husk. My name was Taylor Voss. Still is, even if the world forgot it the day the lab techs flipped the switch. 28. Heir to Voss Dynamics, the biotech giant that turned human frailty into billion-dollar patents.
Dad, Dr.
Elias Voss, the silver fox with a TED Talk smile, pioneered neural mapping for therapeutic enhancements. Mom Lillian, the Ice Queen board chair, handled the money, turning cures into cash cows. They were the power couple of Palo Alto, rubbing elbows with VCs and senators. Their McMansion a shrine to minimalist wealth, white walls, Eames chairs, and a wine cellar stocked with bottles older than my regrets. But regrets? Yeah, I had those. The kind that fester like an untreated wound. It traced back to that night in the Hamptons, summer 22, when the yacht party got sloppy. Champagne flutes clinking under starlight, influencers posing for the gram, and me, buzzed on Rose, overhearing the wrong conversation in the stern. Dad's voice, low and urgent. "The trial data's cooked.
Lil.
If it leaks, we're done." Taylor's the only one clean enough to front it. It was Neuralink, their flagship, a brain-computer interface promising to unlock potential. But the beta tests? Volunteers, mostly desperate vets and undocumented workers, fried like eggs on a hot sidewalk. Seizures. Blackouts. One kid in a coma that they hushed with NDAs and offshore payoffs. I'd been groomed to take the fall if it blew up, the naive daughter, the face of the company, testifying with that wide-eyed trust fund glow. Taylor's mistake, they'd spin. Youthful oversight. I confronted them the next morning, hungover and righteous, pounding on their bedroom door at the family compound. "You can't bury this. People are dying." Mom's face appeared, flawless even at dawn, her silk robe tied like armor. "Darling, it's business. Sit down." Dad joined, coffee in hand. Ever the professor. "We're saving lives. Taylor. The greater good." They gaslit me for hours, love-bombed with promises of shares, seats on the board, until I stormed out, vowing to whistleblow. That vow cost me everything. 2 weeks later, family intervention. They lured me to the lab under pretense of a mediation session, Mom's Mercedes purring up to the Voss Dynamics Annex in Menlo Park. Sterile halls, humming servers, the faint ozone tang of innovation gone sour.
Dr.
Harlan Crow, Dad's right-hand mad scientist, a weasel in a lab coat with eyes like oily quarters, greeted me with a syringe disguised as a vitamin shot. Just to calm the nerves. Miss Voss. Calm? It hit like a freight train. The room spun. Monitors beeping in symphony. And then nothing. Blackness. Absolute. Like falling through the event horizon. When I woke, it wasn't in my king-sized bed or the hum of my Echo playing indie folk. It was a Greyhound bus station in Bakersfield, head throbbing, mouth tasting like copper and regret. And the body.
God. The body.
Male. Mid-40s. Rail-thin with track marks fading on the arms. Clothes reeking of stale smoke and despair. I stumbled to a grimy mirror in the restroom, hollow cheeks, buzzed graying hair, a stranger's haunted blues staring back. Jake Harlan, no relation to the doc, just a junkie who'd OD'd in the lab's donor pool, they later confessed in whispers I shouldn't have heard. Body swap. Not some sci-fi flick bullshit, but real. Courtesy of Neuralink's dark twin, Project Echo. Dad's pet project. Buried in classified servers, mind transference for the elite. Swap failing organs, dodge death. Or in my case, erase a liability. They dumped my consciousness into Jake's corpse-reanimated shell, wiped his neural slate, and slotted a digital puppet into mine. My body, Taylor Voss, 5 feet 7 inches. Athletic build from spin classes and Soul Cycle, walked out of that lab in a tailored blouse, none the wiser to the intruder at the wheel. The first days blurred into survival porn, scavenging dumpsters behind In-N-Out, sleeping under bridges where the homeless hierarchy ranked you by how little you begged. Bakersfield's a dust-choked armpit of Kern County. Oil rigs pumping like mechanical hearts, meth labs bubbling in trailers. I learned fast, Jake's muscle memory kicking in, how to panhandle without eye contact. Score a hit from a dealer named Rico, who called me Humano. But I wasn't him. I was Taylor, clawing through the fog, piecing together fragments from a burner phone they'd left in my pocket, voicemails from Mom. Scripted with concern. Taylor. Honey. Where are you? We're worried sick. Worried.
Right.
By week 2, the news hit. Taylor Voss missing. Presumed breakdown. Voss Dynamics stock dipping then rebounding on interim leadership. I hitched north. Trading blowjobs for rides. Controversial? Tries soul-crushing until I washed up in Oakland, crashing at a squat house run by ex-cons. There, in the flicker of a laptop screen borrowed from a tattooed vet named Marco, I dove into the dark web. Forums for whistleblowers. Leaked memos. Project Echo wasn't just a swap, it was a syndicate. Dad and Harlan peddling immortality to Saudi princes and Russian oligarchs, using volunteers like Jake as fodder. And me, the perfect cover, daughter vanishes. Company pivots to tragic innovation pause, then booms when the puppet Taylor relaunches Neuralink as a success. Betrayal doesn't cover it. These were the people who'd braided my hair, cheered my Yale graduation, toasted my first patent at 24. Mom's lullabies. Dad's bedtime stories of Edison and Tesla, they were all rehearsals for this. The secret they'd buried? Not just the fried brains, but the original sin. 20 years ago, Dad's first trial killed my older brother,
Ethan.
Congenital defect, they said, but it was a prototype implant, a glitch that liquefied his neurons. They hushed it, cremated the evidence, and molded me into the heir who never knew. I'd been carrying their crime my whole life, the ghost sibling in family photos that always got cropped out. Rage simmered, then boiled. I started small, anonymous tips to SEC watchdogs, doctored emails sent from ghost accounts. Voss' stock twitched, but they lawyered up. Mom's connections in D.C. Smothering the noise. I needed inside. Needed to become visible. In Jake's body, I was invisible, another white trash specter in America's underbelly. So I schemed. Stole an ID from a morgue run. Rico had a cousin inside. Got clean with methadone from a free clinic. And enrolled in night classes at community college. Community Organizing 101. How to Rally the Discarded. By month 6, I had a crew, Marco the vet. With his PTSD-fueled hacking skills, Lena, a Filipina nurse who'd lost her green card after whistleblowing a hospital scam, and Tomas, a Guatemalan coder smuggled in a coyote's trunk, genius with blockchain. We called ourselves the Echoes, ironic. And hit Voss where it hurt, supply chain sabotage. Fake FDA audits. Leaked donor manifests to ProPublica. The puppet Taylor faltered on earnings calls. My voice cracking with programmed panic. We're committed to transparency, she lied. And I laughed in the squat's kitchen, nursing black coffee that tasted like victory. But they were closing in. Harlan's goons, private security in black SUVs, raided an echo-safe house in the Tenderloin. Tomas barely escaping with a bullet graze. Mom's face on CNN. Tear-streaked. My daughter's out there. Manipulated by radicals. Please. Come home. The public ate it up, bring Taylor home trending. GoFundMe for mental health awareness. I watched from a library computer. Jake's gaunt reflection mocking me. Time to escalate. Time to go home. The plan crystallized over bad takeout pho in Lena's apartment. Rain lashing the windows like Judgment Day. We hit the gala, Marco growled, sketching on a napkin. Voss Dynamics' annual fundraiser at the De Young Museum. Black ties. Caviar dreams. The elite toasting their own reflections. Puppet Taylor would be there. Arm candy to some venture capitalist. Unveiling Neuralink 2.0. I'd infiltrate his staff, janitorial. Low-rung. Invisible again. But this time, armed with a USB drive of unredacted files, Ethan's autopsy, donor grave sites, the swap logs timestamped with my screams digitized into code. Controversial decision number 1, the bait. I'd lure Harlan out. Dangle a fake defection. Tell Dr. Voss's daughters ready to negotiate. I'd whisper to a bartender I'd buy off. Risky as hell. Could end with me zip-tied in a black site basement. Jake's body dissected for loose ends. But the alternative? Fade into obscurity while they peddled my stolen life.
No.
Fuck that. The night arrived like a storm front. I'd bulked up a bit. Push-ups in alleyways. Protein shakes from food banks. Jake's frame filling out to wiry menace. Tuxedo rental from a thrift shop. Bowtie crooked. Nanteg reading a. Harlan as a middle finger. The museum glowed under chandeliers. Air thick with Chanel and entitlement. I mopped corners. Ears tuned to the schmooze. Senators backslapping dad. Mom air-kissing influencers. And there, my body, gliding through the crowd in emerald silk. Laughing that practice laugh I'd perfected at cotillions. Up close. The differences screamed, a slight limp from Jake's old sciatica. Eyes too vacant, like a doll with a glitch. Harlan took the bait, cornering me in the service elevator. You the janitor with a message? His breath reeked of scotch. Paunch straining the cummerbund. I nodded.
Palming the drive. She wants immunity.
Full wipe. He snatched it, eyes gleaming greed. The great American aphrodisiac. Smart girl. Tell her. That's when I struck. Not with fists, but truth. I lunged, ripped the name tag free, and hissed. Tell her Ethan's waiting in hell for you. You hack. His face drained, recognition dawning like a bad trip. The elevator dinged open to the rooftop terrace. Party spilling out under stars. I shoved him toward the edge. Crowd gasping as he teetered. Taylor, he wheezed. But it was too late. One push. And Dr. Harlan Crow plummeted 3 stories into the koi pond below. Splash echoing like applause. Controversial? Murder in a room full of witnesses. Or justice served with a side of caviar. The headlines would call it accident, slippery heels. Over-imbibed exec, but I knew. And as sirens wailed, I slipped into the night, the first crack in their facade. The fallout was biblical. Voss Dynamics stock cratered overnight. CNBC looping footage of Harlan's sodden corpse fished from the fountain. Lily pads clinging like accusations. Voss cover-up trended harder than Taylor Swift's latest beef. Activists chaining themselves to the Menlo Park gates, demanding audits. Puppet Me went radio silent, grieving in seclusion, while Mom and Dad lawyered up with a firm that defended Big Pharma's opioid pushers. They spun it masterfully, rogue employee, industrial espionage. Taylor Voss safe but traumatized.
Me?
I was ghosts in the machine now. Holed up in a Fleabag motel, off Highway 101. The kind with hourly rates and roaches the size of quarters. Jake's body ached from the adrenaline crash, bruised ribs from the shove. Phantom itches where nerves didn't match. Lena patched me up with stolen sutures. Her hands steady as she stitched. This makes you a killer. Jake, or whatever you are. I met her eyes. Dark and unflinching. Taylor. Always Taylor.
And yeah,
It does. You in or out. She stayed. We all did. The echoes went underground, bouncing between crash pads from Oakland squats to Big Sur communes. Tomas encrypting our comms with quantum-grade bullshit that made NSA wet dreams. I trained, running trails at dawn, shadowboxing in abandoned warehouses, turning Jake's frailty into a weapon. Lean muscle, callous knuckles, a switchblade from a pawn shop that felt like an extension of the rage. Nights, I'd stare at the ceiling, replaying the swap, the cold table, Harlan's needle, the void swallowing me whole. Was this hell? Or purgatory with a Bay Area zip code? Deep dive on the secrets. I hacked deeper. Courtesy of Marco's dark web Rolodex. Project Echo wasn't born in a vacuum. Dad's obsession traced to Ethan's death. 05. I was 8. Piecing together why the house felt hollow. Official story. Crib death. SIDS. Tragic anomaly. But the files? Autopsy scrubbed. But backups lingered. Microlesions from an experimental neural stimulator Dad tested on infants for enhanced cognition. Finn. Their golden boy. Guinea pig for tenure. Mom's emails. Post-loss. We can't let this define us. Elias.
bury it.
Build bigger. They did. Voss Dynamics rose from the ashes. Patents filed under my name to launder the guilt. I'd sign them blind, 22 and eager, thinking it was legacy. Legacy of lies. The betrayal gnawed deeper. They'd raised me on American exceptionalism. Pull yourself up. Manifest destiny. The dream where even orphans become astronauts. But theirs was the nightmare version. Pull others down to prop your pedestal. And the crime I carried? Beyond Ethan. The donors. Jake included. Homeless vets lured with cash for sleep studies, waking as husks or not at all. I'd fronted pressers, smiling for Forbes 30 under 30, while graves multiplied in Potter's fields from Fresno to Tacoma. My face, their shield. Escalation meant exposure. We targeted the board, leaks timed for quarterly meetings, anonymous dossiers mailed to spouses and mistresses. One director, a Wall Street fossil named Hargrove, folded first, confessed to insider trading on Echo trials, fled to Cayman with his tail between his legs. Dad retaliated, sicking PI firms on the Hacker Collective. They raided Lena's sister's place in the mission, deported Tomasa's contact, innocents paying for my war. Guilt twisted like barbed wire, but I pushed on. Controversial call too. Collateral damage. In the land of the free, someone's always expendable. Why not theirs? The puppet cracked next. I lured her to a neutral spot, abandoned warehouse in Hunter's Point, fog rolling off the bay like cigarette smoke. Posed as a journalist, voice modulator turning Jake's gravel to honey. Exclusive on the real Taylor Voss, I texted from a burner. Coordinates pinned. She showed alone. Against protocol. Curiosity or hubris. My body, gaunt now from stress eating kale smoothies, stepped into the beam of my flashlight. "Who the hell are you?" she snapped. That voice, mine, echoing off rusting beams. I stepped forward, face to face with the thief. Up close, the seams showed, Botox lines too tight, a nervous tick in the jaw that Jake never had. "I'm you," I said, flipping the modulator off. Her eyes, my eyes, widened, a glitch in the programming. Impossible. The transfer was clean.
Clean.
Like swapping designer bags at a swap meet. I circled her, switchblade glinting. Not clean enough. I remember the beach house, the scar from that appendectomy at 12. "Do you?" she faltered, the digital ghost fraying. Turns out, the puppet was a composite, Jake's base engrams layered with AI heuristics, fed my memories via cloud sync. But gaps yawned, emotional voids where love or hate should live. "They promised eternity," she whispered, backing against a crate. "For me, or for you?" I pressed the blade to her, my throat, not cutting, just pressing the point. "Who are you?" "Really?" Her confessions spilled like bad code, base consciousness of a terminally ill grad student, Elena Ruiz, poached from a cancer ward. "Voss gave me a chance. Your body for my mind. Fair trade. Fair? In America's marketplace of souls. Maybe. But rage blinded me. I could have ended it, slit the throat that once sang show tunes in the shower, but something held. Mercy?
No.
Strategy. I zip-tied her, gagged with duct tape tasting of my own childhood forts, and dragged her to the van. Hostage now. Leverage incarnate. The drop. Midnight meet at the family compound. Gates creaking open under drone surveillance. Mom and Dad waited on the driveway. Floodlights turning them to statues. Elias in cashmere. Lillian clutching pearls like rosaries. Puppet Elena slumped in the trunk. Alive but muffled. I emerged from shadows. Jake's silhouette hulking. Gun lifted from a raid on Harlan's safe. Evening.
Folks.
Miss me? Mom gasped genuine. Or good acting. Dad's face hardened. The professor calculating angles. Taylor, what have you done? I laughed. A bark that echoed off the manicured lawns. What have I done? Let's tally. buried my brother, fried the poor, stole my goddamn skin. And for what? To keep the Voss name sparkling in the Sunday Times. We talked, or monologued, really in the living room, that sterile cathedral of lies. Fire crackling in the hearth. Photos of me, fake smiles staring down. I laid it out, the files, the swap logs, Ethan's hidden MRI scans glowing on my tablet. They countered with the American playbook: denial, deflection,
Deal-making.
It was for the family, Mom pleaded. Tears real this time.
Smudging mascara.
You were unraveling.
Darling.
The whistleblowing. It would have destroyed us all.
Destroyed.
Like Ethan. Like Jake. Like Elena, now whimpering in the trunk. Dad leaned in, voice oily. We can fix this. Reverse the transfer. Put you back.
Lie.
The tech was one way, bodies rejected the rebound, souls shredded like wet paper. But I played along. Gun steady. Controversial 3. The ultimatum. Sign it over. The company. The trusts. Everything. Or I air the dirt, live stream from the garage, starting with her. I nodded to the puppet. They signed. Notaries summoned at 3 a.m., pens scratching like claws on coffins. Voss Dynamics transferred to a shell corp in my name, well, Jake's alias. But semantics. Victory tasted like ash. As dawn broke, pink over the hills, I herded them into the basement lab, the heart of the beast. One last demo, I said, forcing Dad to boot the console. Elena unbound, strapped to the table, ironic justice. Swap her back to nothing. Erase the glitch. His hands shook on the keys. Mom sobbing in the corner. The machine hummed, lights pulsing, and Elena's eyes, my eyes, locked on mine. Thank you, she mouthed. Peace in the void. The transfer fired, a scream that wasn't human. Arcs of electricity dancing like St. Elmo's fire. Then silence. Body limp.
Mind. Gone.
Back to the ether. Or whatever digital purgatory awaited. I turned to them, gun heavy. Your turn. But Dad lunged, desperate. Paternal, grabbing a scalpel from the tray. The struggle was ugly, Jake's wiry strength versus his professorial flab. Mom clawing at my back like a she-wolf. A shot rang out, wild, grazing his shoulder. He crumpled, blood blooming on the Persian rug. Mom froze, then bolted for the stairs. I let her go. One Voss down, one to chase. The cops came at noon, tipped by an anonymous call, my own, pre-recorded. Compound swarmed, ambulances, feds and windbreakers, the press chopper thumping overhead. Dad arrested for fraud, conspiracy, the works. Mom vanished, private jet to Zurich, whispers of asylum. And me, I melted into the chaos, hitching east, the fortune wired to untraceable accounts. Revenge tasted sweet, but hollow, like winning the lottery after the apocalypse. Or so I thought. The trial loomed, 6 months out in federal court.
DC.
Where power players dice justice like sushi. Voss Dynamics in receivership. But the trusts? Mine to claim. If I could prove I was Taylor. The hook, DNA wouldn't match. Jake's genes stamped on this meat suit. Fingerprints? Altered in a back alley clinic. Eyewitnesses? The only ones who knew were in cuffs or coffins.
DC.
In summer is a steam bath for suits, the kind where ambition sweats through starched collars. The federal courthouse on Constitution Avenue loomed like a Greek temple to hypocrisy, columns cracked from scandals past. Protesters milling outside with signs, "Justice for the swapped," and "Voss equals modern slavery." I'd arrived by Greyhound, shaved Jake's scruff into a goatee, traded the blade for a cheap briefcase. The echoes scattered, Marco to Canada, Lena underground, Tomas ghosting servers from who knows where.
Solo now.
The weight pressed like humidity. The trial, United States v. Elias Voss et al. Dad in orange jumpsuit, gaunt and unbowed, flanked by barracudas from Scadden. Mom extradited mid-trial. Her Chanel traded for polyester. Face a mask of Botox defiance. The charges stacked: manslaughter, racketeering, human trafficking via neural tech. But the real bomb? My petition to intervene as Taylor Voss, rightful heir, demanding the frozen assets. $2.7 billion. Give or take. In patents, real estate, and offshore slush funds. The courtroom reeked of polished oak and stale coffee. Air conditioning humming like a lie detector. Spectators packed the gallery, reporters from Wired and The Post. Victims' families in faded photos pinned to lapels. A smattering of tech bros rubbernecking for the drama. I sat rear row, anonymous in a thrift store blazer, heart jackhammering as opening arguments unfolded. The prosecutor, a bulldog named Reyes, Latina firebrand with a Bronx accent, laid it bare. Ladies and gentlemen, the Vosses didn't just break laws, they broke souls. Project Echo turned human beings into commodities, traded like Bitcoin on a dark exchange. Dad's counsel countered, tragic missteps in pursuit of progress.
Dr.
Voss revolutionized medicine, bullshit. Yawn the jury. A mix of blue-collar holdouts and Beltway lifers. Then the evidence parade. Donor testimonies. Charred server drives. The puppet's autopsy. Unexplained neural degradation. The coroner hedged. But we knew. Elena's end. Mercy killed by my hand. My moment crested on day 12. The trust hearing slotted post-lunch. I bribed a clerk, controversial for corruption. The American way, for the witness slot. Stood at the oak podium. Jake's hands steady on the rail. Facing the bench. Judge Harlan, no relation. Thank Christ, a grizzled vet with eyes like chipped flint. State your name for the record. Taylor Voss. Gasps rippled. Reporters twitching for phones. Mom's head snapping up. Dad's face? Ashen? The professor cornered. I launched into it. Voice gravel rough but steady. The swap. The squat life. The gala plunge. Produce the drive, not the lethal one. A sanitized twin with timestamps. Ethan's scans. Mom's emails begging for the fix. They erased me to erase their sins. I carried them. Ethan's death. The donors' graves for a lifetime I never owned. The courtroom froze. That electric hush before thunder. Reyes leaned forward, ally in the chaos. Defense scrambled. Delusional drifter. Identity theft. But the evidence sang, biometric logs matching my retinas to Taylor's pre-swap file. Voice sprints, sinking despite the husk. Dad cracked on cross. It was for her own good. She was going to ruin everything.
Ruin.
Like a daughter's conscience, was a glitch to patch. Mom's turn gutted me. Composed on the stand, she spun the yarn. Taylor was troubled. Always. The intervention was love, tough love. American style.
Love.
The word curdled. I rose unbidden. Objection overruled in the pandemonium. Love, you murdered my brother for a grant. Swap me like a bad investment. And the fortune? It's blood money, mine by right. Or burn it all. The twist hit like a gut punch. Courtesy of Tomas's parting gift, a final decrypt. Emailed at dawn. I pulled the printout.
Trembling.
One more thing. Flip to the page. Not just Ethan's death, but the origin. Dad's notes. Frantic. Subject TV. Anomalous resilience. Implant rejection minimal. Proceed with enhancement.
TV.
Taylor Voss. Me. At 6 months old. Not Ethan. The prototype? Tested on me first. In utero tweaks via mom's vitamins. Ethan's death was the cover. My survival the secret. I'd been the first success. Wired from conception. The enhanced heir they groomed. The swap, not punishment, but preservation. She was unraveling the code, Dad's log read. Whistleblowing threatened exposure of her own origins. Echo was mercy. Extract the anomaly before it self-destructed. The room detonated. I was the monster? The lab rat turned Frankenstein. My conscience the glitch from tampered DNA? Mom's eyes met mine, pity, not hate. We saved you, darling. From yourself.
Saved.
In their ledger. Yes, the billion-dollar brain. The patents flowing from my enhanced synapses. But the donors? My collateral. Echoes of the crib I'd escaped. The jury deliberated 48 hours. The world holding breath, Taylor Truth fracturing Twitter into camps. Victim or villain. Martyr or mutant.
Verdict. Dad.
Life with parole after 30. Ironic. The immortalist caged.
Mom.
20 years. Her empire dust. The trusts? Awarded to me, Taylor Voss. Legally reconstituted via emergency statute. $2.7 billion. A war chest for reparations. Foundations for donors' kin. Bans on neural tech pushed through Congress on the scandal's wake. But victory? I cashed out. Liquidated to numbered accounts. Vanished to the Rockies, cabin off-grid. Pines whispering secrets. Jake's body aged fast. Telomeres frayed from the swap. But I hiked trails at dawn. Lungs burning clean air. A happy ending? In the American myth. Sure. Rags to riches. Revenge served cold with a side of redemption. I funded scholarships for Bakersfield kids. Therapy for vets. A quiet atonement. Or by kitsch, tragic irony. The fortune bought freedom.
But not peace.
Mirrors still shocked, strangers' lines. Eyes holding two souls' ghosts. Ethan's? Elena's? Mine fractured. Protesters picketed my compound until I donated it all. But whispers lingered. Was Taylor the savior? Or the serpent in the garden? Enhanced to devour? You decide. In this land of manifest destinies and midnight deals, truth's just the first casualty. And silence? It's the echo that lingers longest.